Good evening, barkeep. I'll have a scotch, served neat. Better make that 2 scotches. One for me, and one for my gloomy friend over here. What's the matter, son? I see you sitting here at the bar, holding on to that beer glass like it's a life preserver. You look like you've had a rough evening. Oh, I see. You're having trouble with the missus. You know, the more things change, the more they stay the same. We can put a man on the moon, but we're still no closer to understanding the inner workings of the human heart. Why don't you tell me about your old lady? What's her name? And how did you 2 meet? Oh, that's wonderful. You were high school sweethearts. What a treasure it is to be young and in love. Oh yes, it may be hard to believe, but I was once young too, and I know what it is to fall in love for the first time. Her name was Lydia, and her family lived 2 blocks away. She had hair the color of golden wheat, eyes of cornflower blue, and a dimpled smile that could melt your heart. From the moment I set eyes on her, I was smitten. She had such a radiant beauty that I couldn't even approach her. But Lady Luck smiled on me one day. I had gotten a job as an assistant at the local drugstore, and she would come in every Saturday morning to pick up medicine for her grandfather. She would come in on Saturday morning at 9:45, like clockwork. It was the highlight of my week, seeing her face, talking with her. It was only for a few short minutes, but it meant the world to me. I was so nervous that I would plan little bits of conversation ahead of time. I would ask her how her grandfather was doing, or I would compliment her on her new summer dress. We got to know each other, and eventually I worked up the nerve to ask her to accompany me to the box social. I was so nervous that night, but as the sounds of Glenn Miller filled the room, I asked her, "May I have this dance?" And to my delight, she said yes. Oh, I took her hand and we swept across the dance floor. We danced all night long. It felt as though we were weightless. I knew I wasn't worthy of her love, but I promised myself then and there that I would spend the rest of my life making her the happiest woman in the world, worshipping her, never taking her for granted. But those kinds of promises, they never last forever, do they? Oh, we had our golden summers. We were inseparable. We would sneak out of school together and run off into the woods, building our own little fantasy world in the shrubbery. We had a rich tapestry of inside jokes and pet names for each other. It was real, and it was vibrant, and it was effortless. But nothing can can stay that way forever. The years marched on, and I started getting complicit. I did what I swore I'd never do. I took her for granted. Our love was once a wild magic, but it had become more like a comfortable blanket. Warm and familiar to crawl under, but the thrill, the exhilaration was gone. And then life got difficult. We had a son, and our son got sick. The comfortable blanket was threadbare. That's when the fights began. I found myself looking for escape anywhere that I could find it. An expensive car or a gold watch. The billboards and the glossy magazines will have you believe that this is what makes a man. A Swiss watch, or a pair of golden cufflinks, or a fine cigar. I would buy these items and I would feel good, but only for a short while. These little escape hatches, they were everywhere. The pretty girl down at the office smiles at you, and you smile back, and you think to yourself, if only I wasn't wearing this ring. It would be just like that first time all over again, wouldn't it? Don't fool yourself, son. It won't. That's the thing about first love. You only get to have one. So tell me about yours, my friend. How did you and your lover first meet? You met in history class. She helped you prepare for your exam. I see. She had brains and beauty. You're a lucky one, my friend. Sounds like the same old story all over again. You fell head over heels in love. She was the girl next door. She was your soulmate. It was magical. It was effortless. And then one day, it wasn't anymore. I know how you feel. You return from work, and you see this woman sharing your home. She feels like a stranger. How did she get here? Into your house? Into your life? Is this your lover, or just a business partner who helps you pay the bills and manage the household and raise the children? And then you leave home and you find all the same distractions that I did 40 years ago. You come to this pub and you see the pretty woman dancing to the tune on the jukebox. She smiles at you from across the room, and you think to yourself, I've still got it. I'm still a ladies' man. I'm still that same 16-year-old boy with the blonde curls from history class. What if I just left my life behind and I became that 16-year-old boy again? I would be free as a bird. I could meet a different woman every day of the week. And I'm sure that you could. You look like a successful man. You've still got your looks. You're in the prime of your life. Besides, these days it's easier than ever, isn't it? You just swipe on the little screen in your pocket and you're talking to a pretty lady. But would it make you happy? Maybe it would. last for a short while. You see, I've been there too, son. I've made the mistake of leaving the love of my life. Our love had soured, and instead of trying to sweeten it, I jumped ship. I left her to raise our boy all on her own. Meanwhile, I was the Casanova with the Swiss watch and the golden cufflinks, meeting the pretty girl at the office and the pretty girl at the pub, buying them drinks, taking them dancing. I've loved so many women, but it was a shallow kind of love. Making love without falling in love. It's a no man's land. I would lie there at night with a strange woman resting her head on my chest, and I would feel that initial happiness vanish in my mouth like cotton candy. This kind of happiness is no different than the happiness you get from the Swiss watch and the golden cufflinks. It comes, and then just as quickly, it goes away, and you're left with an empty hole you must fill. So you go looking for your next fix, the next pretty lady at the bar, the next luxury car or designer suit, the next vacation away from your empty life. I lived like this for years. Meaningless, nihilistic existence. Like an animal jumping from one carnal pleasure to the next. And I knew it too. I remembered how I had felt when I was with Lydia. It was a different kind of happiness. A background, unconditional happiness that was always there. Even when things were tough at work, or when we had to spend nights at the hospital with our boy, we were still happy knowing that we would be in each other's arms at the end of the day. I knew that I had to go back there. I wasn't brave enough to do it. Eventually, I learned from a common friend that I had waited too long. Lydia had a new life already. She had remarried. She was living with her new husband and their children, and I was just a ghost in her past. I'm not in any position to be giving another man advice on matters of the heart, but I beg of you, son, don't make the same mistake I did. Turned out to be the biggest regret of my life. Sometimes you don't know what you have until it's gone. I know that sounds like a tired old cliche from a tired old man, but there's a reason it's a cliche. It's because it's the truth. I hear you, my friend. It's not the same as it was. She's a stranger now. Well, inside that stranger is the same 16-year-old girl who helped you pass that history test. Listen, son. Life changes us all. There's no avoiding it. But if there's even the tiniest spark of that original love still there, you must shelter it and kindle it until it grows into a blaze. Oh, I know. It won't be easy. Love is hard work, but it's the most worthwhile work there is. Anyway, I've been rambling for long enough. Thank you for listening to this old pensioner tell his life story. You seem like a kind young man, and I hope my words can steer you away from the lonely road that I've chosen. It seems the hour is getting late. I must bid you farewell. Oh, don't worry, son. The drinks are on me. I have to be on my way now. I wish you a good evening.